pure online retailer. That's what it's about. We all know it, but it's good to hear it from the horse itself. As our sixth speaker, it's a great pleasure and a big privilege indeed to introduce Levan, Wassatzé, chairman of the Beethoven Group, on how to integrate true cross-channeling into today's retailing requirements and how to build a company in not so easy circumstances, if I may say so. Levan is an entrepreneur, public figure, founder, chairman of the private equity fund Prometheus Capital Partners, and chairman of the pet retailing company in Moscow, and also chairman of the Georgian Demographic Society 21. By the way, he's Georgian, so don't be blindfolded by talking Russian. He's a Georgian. In September 2010, Prometheus Capital Partners acquired pet retail chain Beethoven, and it's been running it ever since. Today it has about 100 stores, a little more, mainly located in Moscow region, and it's a great company to look at, which I can recently in more detail if you're interested. On a private note, Levin is part of a large family. I think you're 9 altogether. Is that right?
10.
10. Okay.
8 children.
8 children. I mean, one wife. One wife.
Hard to live up to it. Great to be here with you guys. When I sent my presentation to Nick, he called me back worried and said, Levin, are you sure you can speak for 45 minutes just on 11 slides? And that's coming from a man who knows I can talk for 3 hours without any slides, assuming there is one bottle of Georgian wine on the table and one piece of hachapuri at least. And then I looked at the schedule of our conference and I realized I'm speaking at the most drowsy part of the conference because the food digestion is over and now is the excellent time to doze off and take a nap in the conference. So I think even 11 slides is too much, but I'll use them anyway. When we started doing this, our idea was very analytical, I think. I was born in the family of scientists, but my verdict was poetry. I was born a poet. I don't think you can be made a poet. Then I studied geophysics, and then Soviet Union collapsed. And Terence this morning spoke about the difficulties of transformation living between London and Rome, and I fully agree with Terence. Try living first half of your life inside Soviet Union, and then outside of it in a modern capitalistic society. So this whole shebang about 5G and all the internet-related transformation which is coming our way, compared to the transformation we have already seen in our lifetime, is boring. And I think we're all well prepared to deal with it just like we have dealt with whatever came our way before. We wanted to do something very crisis-resistant. In 2009, when we started thinking about our next investment, and I asked my colleagues and analysts to find me one industry in the world which is the most crisis-resilient business. We did a cross-sector analysis of 600 sub-industries around the world, measuring them by the boring coefficient of beta. Beta is what measures the industry sales correlation to GDP of this or that country. The lower the beta, the better. We found the lowest beta was with McDonald's. The second lowest was with discount supermarkets. And the third one was the reason I'm standing in this room. Then we looked at the demographics and realized that, wow, former Soviet Union is the last of the Mohicans. Russia alone, without the rest of the Soviet Union, is number 3 in the world in number of cats and dogs. after China and the United States. When Thorsten Toller visited me in Moscow, and we're good friends now, when he told me that he's hesitating whether or not he should invest in Russia or in one of the respected Eastern European countries, not to offend anyone, I said, Russians have more cats and dogs than those people have people, so you make up your mind. In Moscow still, we have up to 20% of people feeding their pets off the table. In the region, the proportion is vice versa. In Russian regions, people still feed 70 or 80% of the table. So the sky is the limit for a company such as ours. And we started doing this. We looked at the landscape and we said, where do we invest? And we found 3 little companies back then. And we said, let's merge them all together, buy them all with some partners, and roll them out as a national leader. Buying 2 companies in the Western world and merging them into one is a nightmare. Imagine doing 3 companies in Russia. So we had to omit one and stick with the 2. So we bought 2 companies, which initially had about 40 stores combined. We had to shut down 10 stores which didn't work. And that's where we started. And this was unbelievable, 10 years ago. It was yesterday. In my opinion, we started yesterday. And 10 years flew by as one day. This first stage is over. The world we've lived in for the past 10 years is gone. And we meet with you at a wonderful time. We're entering the completely new stage. I think last year was the year of reinventing Beethoven by us, and I'll tell you all about it. Nick asked me to do a company-specific case, so we all sort of put our heads together and look at what we're doing. Maybe you can recommend something to me. Maybe some of what we're doing will resonate with what you're doing. But before I dive into Beethoven, let me share with you some very important general strategic observations related to demography and related to the patterns of change that we are all undergoing irrespective of where we live. Let me start with the most important aspect, which is the altering demographics of Western Europe. Before today is over, there will be roughly 16,000 Chinese born before we finish this conference. And before today is over, Western Europeans will have buried roughly 10,000 more people than he had given birth to. India produces one population of entire Western Europe in roughly 9 years. Every 9 years, India adds one population of Western Europe because its population is 190 million and the Indian annual growth of population is 22 million people. Within the growth within the reducing number of population inside Western Europe, the only growth comes from the migrants who come to Western European continent. So Jörg here, who spoke to us earlier today, pretty soon will not be the only guy in the room whose daughter-in-law or son-in-law's name is Fatima or Ali or Muhammad. Now, what implications does that have for our business, especially those of you doing it in the Western Europe? Guess what? This wave of demographic transformation is bringing huge customer preference changes. Number one, not to pretend that I'm a big expert on the great and diverse Islamic culture, Muslims don't think they should have dogs inside their houses. Number two, especially to those Islamic subcultures that radiate around the legacy of great Egyptian culture, they have a general aversion towards cats. So if this demographic trend carries on, in Western Europe, you're going to have a very different customer base in next 30 or 40 years. We think about these things in our parts of the world, and they're very hard to quantify and predict, but he who doesn't think about them can only be in the reactive mode and not in the proactive mode. My second general, very important demographic suggestion to everyone sitting in the room will be the emerging de-urbanization of Western European countries. If the last century and the century before last were the centuries of utter intensive industrialization and urbanization of Western civilization, and as a result the rest of the planet, we are going to begin seeing the reversing trend. More and more people will prefer living outside of the big cities, closer to the nature, and having families, hopefully, counterbalancing my previous argument. And so if we see the surge in home ownership percentage in Western Europe, we may hope there is a counter effect on what I've spoken about before. Now on to Beethoven. Like I said, when we started, and I think Nick mentioned it, we had 42 stores, we shut down 10, we had 30, and we started building from there. We more than tripled the company in the last 10 years, and I think we will triple or quadruple in the next 10 years. Only our growth will be very different from what it was before. If up until now, we were your classic specialist retailer, going forward, we will stop being just that. Just about this time last year, I came to our company and said to my CEO and our management team, guys, we will no longer be just a retailer, we will become a customer solutions provider. Retail in the following few years will remain as our main bread and butter, but we will be altering our corporate identity today. Those of you who want to stay on this train in this new life, please join me. We will rotate you, we will give you more dynamic jobs. Those who think we're wrong should leave the company. And so last year was the year of courage that Jörg spoke about in his presentation. The year of not sticking to doing things the way we're comfortable and used to doing, and reinventing ourselves all over again. And let me tell you how we're doing this. So back in those days when we started, which was yesterday, 10 years ago, we were number one. We had no major competitors, very loyal and flexible suppliers. We were the dominant market shaper with a limited assortment, and that was our ecosystem, that was our environment. And obviously we realized very quickly that that was about to change. The first, let's say, 5 or 6 years was the years of explosive growth. The company had to be taught the basics of corporate governance, proper HR, proper IT, proper structuring, proper logistics, and we did all of that. We added about 1,500 employees. We're the first ones to start vet pharmacies inside our stores. Started our private label program, which was embryonic back then. It's now, I think it's 30 something percent of our sales and roughly half of our gross income. And we were just seeing some embryonic initiatives on the internet business. The landscape started changing pretty fast, thanks to, I don't say this mistakenly, because I think all the pressure that comes your way, you should be thankful for it. And I say this as a veteran rugby player. Everything that presses you is good for you. So 4 pressure vectors came upon us. Competitors started growing and emerging. grocery chains started integrating themselves into our business. The online in Russia, I think it already has about 10% of the business. And obviously the crisis, purchasing power started dropping. If you ask me which one of these factors was more important to Beethoven's reshaped thinking, and which one of them have prompted us, towards which one of them I am most grateful, I would say all of them. Because at some point people thought online will, with all respect towards Zooplus, and when the founder of Zooplus visited my home in Georgia and we sat around the Georgian table and discussed the future of online versus offline, I told him that I don't believe in elimination of offline retail, traditional retail, completely, because I, as an urban citizen, can sit in my apartment bed, whether I'm in Berlin or in Moscow, and have everything delivered to my flat, from pizza to dog food to television, but what else do I have to do with myself? And so offline shopping, I believe, is a fundamental habit of an urban citizen, which will not go anywhere. And we are seeing, if anything, the halting of the onslaught of the online business onto the offline. So I'm a big fan of believing that there is a certain level of natural organic line beyond which they will coexist. Purchasing power drop, in my view, is the problem for losers. Because if your management, your customers want to choose what you're selling, is what management is all about. Grocery competition, I actually don't even view as a competition. In our case, I don't know how it is in your parts of the world, but in our case, it's the supplier of customers to us, because people who feed off the table their pets first go to the groceries and buy products from them, and then a year or two later they decide to upgrade. So the more people go to grocery, I think the more customers they are preparing for us. The downgrading, the going the other way when the incomes drop, is a much more difficult process. So, but thanks to these four factors, we have reshaped Beethoven, and I'll tell you how. We started focusing a lot more on the process quality, and last year has been the most intense year of beginning to reshape how we do things inside our company. Number one, like I said, we want to become a customer solution-centric company. And I will tell you in greater detail what I mean by that on the later stages. Number two, believe it or not, we started being proactive in terms of anticipating customer preferences. And I will tell you what we're doing, including on our IT side, to be better equipped at that. Training, the problem with the training is every management team and every company tells you, oh, we have all that. We have, regular training programs, we have HR, we have, everything is covered. But when you delve into the depth and the details of training programs that your company has, you will realize that nothing changes faster than the need to upgrade your training techniques. And we started doing that at Beethoven. Transparency is still an uphill battle, but I think by now we've achieved that everything we know about any customer at Beethoven is known to every part of our company. Up until then, that was not the case. Marketing knew something about the customer, financial department knew something about the customer, IT knew something about the customer, and for some crazy reason they had a reluctance to share this with each other. We decided to be a much more proactive team on third-party evaluations of how people perceive us, and let me tell you how we're doing that. Now, how do we do this? One of the things, number one, is this the laser? Number one, I said because this is a rapid transformation of the company. How do you go about this as the chairman of the board or the shareholder who is very actively involved in the life of the company? And there are only two ways to go. One is hire an outside CEO, an outsider, or do the restructuring, and then that will be sure that will result in him or her bringing in a cohort of his or her team and changing a lot of things around the company. In our case, we put a lot of trust in the existing management team because they've been so successful in building what they've built in the last 10 years. And we said, no, this is going to be a terrible word, perestroika, the structure of the existing company. So I think 6 out of top management board positions have been rotated. 1 has been changed, and we sailed on. Number 2 tool is sitting right there at the table. We said, his name is Nick Deschamps, and we know him as one of the smartest men in the industry, and I think we should give him a hand for that. I said, I want to sanity check what we're doing, because we're arrogant, we're self-assured, we know we're very smart and successful, but just to make sure that we're not complete idiots, let's call someone who is internationally experienced, knows what he's doing, to hold our hand, check our pulse, make sure that he oversees the processes. So I asked Nick to give me part of his time. I'm very grateful for his involvement as the advisor. Number 3, agility. Everyone speaks about big data, blockchain, agile approaches, and I'm not sure I belong to the category of people who understand very well what these words mean. But I also like to use them since they're in fashion. But agility is definitely something that is part of our lives in our parts of the world. And I said to our team, I'd say the top team is about 30 people. I said to our team, guys, because of these pressures and because of the crisis and because of the dying of the old model, I see a certain degree of stress in your eyes, and you are risking falling into a false religion of not making mistakes. And I said to them, just forget that. I want you to make as many mistakes as you can, assuming you fix them. So don't freeze up. Don't be, oh, if we do this, that will happen. If we do that, this will happen. I said, just go ahead, enjoy yourselves. I know if you unleash your inner energy, you will be much more successful. Optimization requires a lot. If we are right in, just to give you an idea, if we are right in what we are doing, George and I, our CEO and I, this year, our EBITDA will grow by 50%. And I actually think it will do better. So optimization required a whole new office inside the company. And one of the most intelligent persons in the company was put in charge of that office only. She was dispatched from the project management, from the operating management, and she's just overseeing the optimization. CRM, everyone talks about the need to advance IT intelligence of their companies, and we had an embryonic capability inside Beethoven, but this year we made already and are making a huge breakthrough which will take us from the embryonic position to predictive analytics, and I'm very happy about it. This is what we're building. So far, Beethoven is just this, but by the year end, it will be all of this. Now, this will remain our bread and butter in the foreseeable future, but not for very long. What are we doing? Aside from the stores network, we said, let's be with the customer in Russia because we want to have, I don't know, maybe 500 stores, maybe more of our own stores. in our lifetime, not to speak about the franchisees. And I said, let us be with our customer from the inception, when he or she becomes a pet parent, to the ritual services. That doesn't mean we will be investing our own cash in everything, but that means we will be breeding, we are already actually, breeding this ecosystem and helping it organize itself around the total. How are we doing this? Let's start with the clinics. We discovered that clinics pay back, for whatever reason, in Moscow, for example, twice as fast, sometimes 3 times as fast as the stores. So we said, great, let's open some clinics. And so this year we're going to open first 2 clinics. We already hired a very strong head veterinarian. We've retrained 150 of our own existing veterinarians who work in our network of stores. We're putting in, I think, 10 veterinary cabinets throughout our network, inside our stores. They are not very profitable themselves, but they're excellent customer gatherers for our own veterinary clinics. And if the financial model is accurate, and if the reality is almost as good as we've predicted, maybe we will have 10 clinics next year, maybe 20 the year after, and we'll have that arm fully functioning. We said, we see a lot of people who own pets in Russia who love to show them off on various exhibitions, competitions, and there is not one service that provides this on a scientific, properly certified, organized basis. So I said, let's prepare an arm which helps us do master classes for the pet owners, and helps, it doesn't matter if it's a teenager or a middle-aged pet parent, helps that pet parent enjoy his time with his dog or his or her cat through Beethoven by providing some basic essential tips how to train the pets and how to succeed better at the competitions. Moving on, I'm sorry, this was pet training programs. Master classes is something different, I'll tell you in a little bit. One of our employees said, let's enhance the whole arm of the pet services and see what we can do on grooming, on vet taxi, on vet hotels, on walking on demand, on pet keeping throughout our customer base. All of these services right now in Moscow are fragmented. Here and there you have some successful entrepreneurial initiatives and small companies doing things around us, but they don't have the guidance, they don't have the platform, they don't have the capital, they don't have the scale. So in some cases, I don't want to run in front of the train, but we will be buying them. In some cases, we will just be supporting them as a part of our ecosystem. And in some cases, we will just be partnering with them. So the goal here for someone like Beethoven is to become the one-stop shop. So I don't want our customers to think about Beethoven only when they have to feed them, their pets, or only when they have to spoil them with a toy or something. Our goal here, it's a psychological goal for the Beethoven brand, and I think it was Florian who was speaking greatly about the importance of the brand, for Beethoven brand to ring in the head of the pet parent, not only when he hears the great music by Beethoven, but also when he needs anything for his or her own pet. We went as far as to organize the first centralized company for vet insurance in partnership with two greatest Russian insurance companies, and we will be launching this product next month, selling it through our cashiers on our stores. Online telemedicine. Only the lazy don't talk about it these days. Our goal is to, on one hand, I thought we would just invest in the IT and create our own platform. Then we looked at the existing platforms and we said, maybe we'll do it, but at this point, what we want to do is have a properly rated catalog of existing telemedicine product providers, and help our customers navigate through them with the least hassle at their hands. Obviously, the goal being you don't have to run with your pet towards the vet clinic every time it throws up. You can call the service you trust, show, discuss, and then make a decision. Make your life easier. Marketplace. Launching or launched?
Launching.
Launching. About 3 weeks. This is what it's going to look like in terms of the menu. You're going to be able to do all of these things with us from day one. The depth of each button will grow with time, but none of these will be dummies when it's launched. So, from speaking to doing, I think it was Tony who spoke about it, or Florian. You could make all the pretty pictures in the presentation, but if they don't work, I agree with Florian, you're dead. So, we could have done this. When I came to the management last spring and said we should do it, they said, oh, you're crazy, we're busy, it's a crisis time. It's another caprice from the owner. And I said, I'll do it myself. And they said, okay, you do it yourself. And I started doing it myself. And I said, if the top management is too busy to get involved with this, I want middle management to speak to me. And I had 35 very eager, very dynamic middle managers come to me and start working with me. And now it's everybody's darling. And we will have it operating in about a month. This is the conversion we want. I think this is very ambitious. We want in the first year of the existence of our ecosystem, 15% of our huge customer base to use it. I'll believe it when I see it, but the management asked for it themselves. I don't care about the accuracy of these numbers, by the way. As long as the trickling down takes place, even if it's 1, not 1%, 1, I'll be happy. Because ex nihilo, this has been born. What's the biggest danger for a company such as us pursuing this? I tell you, forgetting your main bread and butter, spreading yourself too thin, dreaming empty dreams, wasting your cash, and saying this will catch on. And then looking at the end of the year at your P&L and saying, my God, I wish I was never born. We will not allow this. Every time I speak to our partners, our investors, our bankers, I always say, we're very grim, robust, and old-fashioned when it comes to counting money. We know where our bread and butter comes from. We know where the horizons are. We'll go about those horizons with an optimum balance of proper vision and ruthless, cynical assessment of whether or not what we're doing is correct. I think the glue which holds any project, let alone a company like this, together is the ability of people to enjoy what they're doing, to enjoy being with each other. For example, We just launched moving to a new, nicer office, which Nick and I designed ourselves. And why? Is this the year to change headquarters? No. This is the year to change the skin of the snake, to be bored, to give people the feeling that you're moving forward no matter what. When we meet 10 years from now, you will either laugh at me and say, Levin, remember those dreams you had? All gone, nothing happened. Your company is just a mediocre, old-fashioned retailer who is getting by. Or we will say, remember we told you we're going to be something much more, as we're calling it, just a retail store. And rest assured, myself, George, Nick, and everybody at our company will do everything we can to make that happen.